What is the inner child and how does it affect your life as an adult? I'm sure you've heard a lot of information. You probably watched a lot of videos. Maybe you make sense of it by now, and maybe you have a lot of questions. So in this video, I'm going to try to answer these questions and help you understand whether or not you need to do some work on your inner child. Hint, most of us do need to do some work, but let's figure out what this actually means. So first of all, welcome. My name is Ya'ara. I am a spiritual healer and I guide women through their inner work, through their emotional healing process, transforming their inner war into inner peace. I am half of this creation called LifeBloom, this beautiful community for real women growing and transforming through real life with real difficulties. I said half of this creation because the other half is my sister, Rakefet, which you will get to know in our weekly lives every Tuesday and on the rest of the videos that you'll find on this channel. So if you still haven't subscribed and you want to get notified when our weekly lives are, just go ahead, subscribe, hit the bell, or maybe it's here, I don't know, and just join us every Tuesday for a live about our growth, our journey, with lots of tools for your own self-healing, for your own spiritual growth. And let's just dive right to it. What is the inner child and how does it affect your life today as an adult? So first of all, the inner child is one of the places that it's coming from, originating from, is psychology. And one of the first people to recognize the inner child and to use it in their therapy is Carl Jung. And Carl Jung actually said that the inner child is a subpersonality that is the sum of things that we've learned in our past ages. It involves emotions, it involves wounds, it involves fears, but it also involves joy and trust and imagination. So there's the wounded inner child, but there's also the happy inner child. And a part of this approach of the inner child holds our wounds and our traumas means that through connection with the inner child, we also have access to healing and working and transforming these wounds. This is in a nutshell, and this pretty much sums it up. But there's also a spiritual layer to our inner child. This spiritual layer is the energetic flavor, the energetic part of our inner child. So if we look at our aura and we look at ourselves as an energetic being, the inner child is one of the core layers of our energy. So if we have our essence, the essence of being, which is actually the universe, the energy that is everything, the universal energy itself, we have on top of that layers of personality, the person that we are, the human being that we are, our mental, emotional layers, our processes. This is our identity. The inner child is one of the fundamental layers that compound our identity. So on the energetic level, it's one of the deepest, most basic layers of our energy as a human. What do I mean when I say our energy as a human? When you walk out in the world, you look at people, you interact with people, you feel a different vibe from a different person, correct? You sometimes don't even need to speak to a person to feel their vibe. Their vibe, this is the energy that they're exuding out to the world. Every person you interact with feels your vibe. In your vibe, and we know that, right? Some people are more spiritual. Some people are more analytical. Some people are hippie. We have these kind of stereotypes to people's vibes. So this vibe is the energy, the vibration that we exude out to the world. And this vibe actually says a lot about who we are. Very, very often, we catch this vibe because this is truly what the person is in their personal identity, in the way that they think, in the way that they behave, in their own inner conversation. And so this vibe has a lot, this vibration, right, has a lot of layers. One of these core layers, one of the things that begin to build our identity is the experiences that we had as children. The experiences, the traumas, experiences could be happy, they could be painful, but whatever it is, they shaped our identity. So they left marks on our energy. They left, maybe it's scars, you can call it beauty marks, but they shaped our energy to be in a certain flavor. And that is the base and the foundation of the person that we've become. Now, granted, we've accumulated many experiences throughout our lives, so it's not just about the inner child. We also have the inner teen, but the inner teenager. But generally, every experience that we've had throughout our life before the present moment could be considered a part of this inner child. Even if we were 30 and we're now 35, of course, it's not the same behavior as a child would emotionally and mentally, but it's still a part of our past identity, and we can still work with these memories and these wounds to heal them so that we can grow from them, okay? Now, in healing, we often look at a specific memory, at a specific emotional pattern that we might not have completely developed ideally in our life because of the setting that we were as children. What that means is that if we were in a household, in an environment that was not emotionally supportive, in an environment that put us repeatedly in painful situations, in an environment that might have abused us mentally, emotionally, physically. And it doesn't have to be a big, like something that your parents would be, you need to complain to Social Security for, right? Every kind of behavior that shifted something in your emotional state in a way that you felt like you couldn't trust your environment, like your parents might not have been an emotional support system. Maybe you felt lonely, maybe you felt scared, maybe you felt unseen, maybe you were shamed. All of these interactions from our environment shaped our emotional mental state and shaped our identity today. And this means that it still is affecting us as adults today. And I'm sure that if you're watching this, then you probably have noticed that things from your past, things from your identity as a child, shape the way that you view life today and shape the way that you move through life. Now, what happens when our inner child shapes the way that we live our life today? And it's not necessarily helping us. It's not necessarily positive for our life. It's not necessarily helping us to live the life that we truly want. Well, that means that we need to reconnect with our inner child and help them grow beyond these wounds, help them heal these wounds. And in a nutshell, what this means is that we need to give them the environment to develop in a healthy way, the environment that they didn't have once they encountered these emotions in the first place. So when you were young, you wanted to feel like you were seen, and you did this amazing thing and you brought it to your parents and you said, look, and they said, oh, okay, nice, and they went away. And you felt in that moment like all of your effort, all of your work was for nothing and you're unseen. And maybe it made you feel ashamed, or maybe it made you feel unloved. It's a small thing, but if it left a notch in your emotional state, then in order to fix that today, you need to parent yourself, to become that parent, and give yourself, your inner child, as yourself as an adult today, the environment that it needed to receive the energy and the feedback that it wanted. Wow, that's amazing. I see you. I love you. You did beautifully. I'm proud of what you're doing. So whatever it is that your inner child needed, you can give it the answer today. Let's take a look at how do we know that our inner child is wounded. But first, let me just take a sip of tea here and breathe. Earl Grey. So how do we know that our inner child is wounded? First of all, you know. Because if you feel in your heart that a part of you is always going around you and always feeling like something within you is in unease, something within you is always seeking, like a little boy, a little girl is always running after their mother, pulling their pants, see me, love me, need me, want me. This part of you that's always seeking, that's your inner child. And the way that you might experience their dysregulation or their pain, their wounds in your day-to-day is there are two main ways that I've noticed that this comes to life. One of them is the hyper-emotional. So the person that their emotion seems to be stronger than them. Their emotions kind of jump on them. They eat them, they swallow them. And it's hard for them to ignore or to regulate their emotions. And they might have responses that swing from side to side like a child does. They have difficulty regulating their emotions. Their emotions are so strong that they are kind of owned by their emotions when they come up. It doesn't mean that they're always owned by their emotions, but when a trigger is pressed and something is triggering the inner child, this emotional state becomes stronger than the mind, and it affects the body, it affects everything within you, and you're pulled into this emotion. This is one side of the wounded inner child. Another side of the wounded inner child is the exact opposite, where you've learned that if you feel your emotions, then you might get sucked into it. You might have learned it in an earlier age, and you've learned to block them. And you've learned to not feel them because it's too dangerous, because maybe there wasn't enough sufficient support in your household to allow you to have strong emotions. Maybe there was not enough space for you, so you had to block them. So these are the two ways that an inner child might appear in our day-to-day. And whatever it is, you have the option to reintegrate. You have the option to reconnect with your inner child. And this might be a bit challenging. This might take time. It's not always easy. And I can share from my own experience that when I just started doing work with my inner child, it took me 3 months before she would even speak to me. At first, with meditation and guided imagination, she would just sit like that and she didn't want to look at me. And it took me 3 months to regain her trust, to be able to actually interact with her. And we're going to upload at some point here actually a guided practice to visualize an actual conversation with your inner child. And I say visualize, but from a spiritual perspective, you will be speaking to that energy part of yourself that is the inner child. So it is definitely a possibility. You need to be patient when you work with your inner child. And if that is something that is interesting to you, then in a few days, I will be doing a video about how to reconnect with your inner child. So I will link that up here. Go ahead and check that video next so that you can practice these daily habits to reconnect with your inner child. Now, one last thing about the inner child is that it's not only a place of wounds and traumas and fear and pain. The inner child is also a place of joy. Because what is the essence of a child? The essence of a child is joy, is freedom, is imagination, is a free spirit. So this is the happy inner child. And something that I love doing when we do inner child work is not just work on the suffering and the traumatized inner child, but also reconnect with the happy inner child. They're both part of your subconscious. They're both part of who you are. And as we heal from pain, we also want to increase joy. So both of these parts of the inner child are things to work with and to reintegrate into our life. And I just want to pop in here real quick to say that we have a workbook for you about reconnecting with your happy inner child, which is something that we very often forget to do. So you can go ahead to our description and download this workbook to reconnect with your happy inner child. How important is that? How valuable is that? So go ahead and download that down below. Choosing to be connected with your inner child, with all their parts, all their facets, and reintegrate all of these things into the person that you are, but from a place of choice, so that your emotions don't just jump on you, or that you don't just block your emotions because you can't handle them, but you notice them as they come up. You recognize that energetic flavor. Yes, this is the inner child speaking to me. And you know how to communicate with them. You give them what they need. You know how to be in contact with the inner child so that you can be that parent, that support system that it needed. So I've said a lot about what the inner child is and how it actually affects your life today. But I want to hear from you. How do you feel that the inner child affects your life on a daily basis? And which type of these two sides of the inner child are you? Are you the emotional type, the one that the emotions jump on and they eat them? Or are you the one that is blocking their emotions and can't look, too much, too painful? Let me know in the comments down below. And please hit that subscribe button if you liked what you heard. Hit that bell so you'll be notified when we upload again. Go ahead and download the workbook to reconnect with your happy inner child. Down below in our description, you'll find a link. Thank you so much for being here with me. Love you. See you in the next one.